Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today I'm bringing you guys a video that may be the single most important on my entire channel. If those you don't remember, in the last video I posted, it was a series against user MudkipNerd. What was initially going to be a best of one that turned into an ever so dramatic best of three, where we played for his ability to join the OU Council. Fortunately, I won. I emerged victorious in 3 tense games. Check out my last video if you'd like to see more on that. But because I was having so much fun and so many people were engaged, I told him that not only would I play him for his spot to join the council, but I would also bet my own spot in the council. So we agreed a best of 3 in standard Scarlet and Violet overused for my spot on the council. If he wins, he gets the spot. If I win, I keep the spot. So we played for keeps. And here it goes. Game 1 starts here. I am using a pretty standard build. I like the offensive picks I have a lot here. I have a lot of status, choice band scissor with priority, Dragapult with speed, some nice pivots such as Amoonguss and Rotom Wash, and then hazards with Garganacl and Tinglu. On the flip side, MudkipNerd has a more aggressive team. He has offensive presences like Genplow, Flamigo, and a win condition like Espathra and potentially Annihilate, coupled with Tinglu and Rotom Wash, the backbone that I also have there. So interesting to see we both have the same backbone. And let's go ahead and get into the game right off the bat. So I elect to lead with my Dragapult, knowing that if he leads with anything, I should be in pretty good shape. Reason being is that I was Terra Fairy Will-O-Wisp Dragapult, so if he leads Chien-Pao, then he could normally kill Dragapult, but I would be faster. I'd get a Will-O-Wisp off, and if I need to, I could even Terra Fairy, depending on what I was scared of. Really, the only thing I was scared of, maybe him leading, was Tinglu, because I could click hazards, and the best I could do is get a Will-O-Wisp or U-turn off on it. But I didn't think he was going to lead that with the prospect of me leading a Moongus or Rotom Wash or even Choice Banded Scizor existing. He led with the Flamingo, and he couldn't even kill a Scarf Braybird, so he U-turned out, which actually puts me in range for Scarf Braybird later. I do get a Will-O-Wisp off. He does ultimately go to that Tinglu, but I do prefer the free turn in advance, so not only do I get a burn, but I get U-turn chip, and I can bring my Garganacl in. That is going to allow me to set some Stealth Rock up here. With those rocks up, I'm going to be in pretty good shape. However, he brings in Annihilate. Right here, I predict him to either go for a bulk up in my face, or more likely go for Taunt, trying to thwart any attempts at my own setting up, or me getting stats off with the Moongus or Rotom, whatever it may be. I go here on Dragapult, thinking, okay, A, I can threaten him out with a Ghost type move, and B, Taunt, it wouldn't bother me as much. So what I do here then is now, since he knows I'm heavy duty boots based off the fact that I didn't take rocks damage, I switched out to Rotom Wash, expecting him to just go for bulk up because heavy duty boots can't kill him, and I know I can't kill him, or even go for a Rage Fist, knowing that he would easily live a Hex and then get a Rage Fist off to kill me with 100 base power. Because of that, I went to my fast Rotom Wash, knowing that I'll outspeed him and he was going to taunt again, and I scare him out with the prospect of Will-O-Wisp. Thankfully, he does switch out. Unfortunately for my side, I do miss Will-O-Wisp as he goes to his own Rotom Wash. My leftovers, I believe, go first here. I click Volt Switch here, and I just bring out my Amoonguss. He Hydro Pumps, perhaps predicting me to go to my Tinglu on a Volt Switch there. Interesting play there, nonetheless. Either way, speaking of Tinglu, he goes to his own, trying to block status, but I see through that and go for the Giga Drain, knowing fully well that he might try and block my attempt at sporing him. From there, I'm going to Giga Drain once more, knowing he might go for Spikes, but he actually goes for he goes for Whirlwind there. Whirlwind allows for me to get my Dragapult in, which is not a bad spot. Not my best spot, but certainly not a problem. I'm just going to go ahead and U-turn as I continue to chip it down. Actually, I lied. I Dragon Darts here, which allows for him to get a Spike up, which is fine because then he's in U-turn range. I can take him out with U-turn, and then I can bring my Rotom Wash in, but despite taking rocks, I get the free leftovers to heal me up. So instead of coming in at 88, I come in at 94. He goes to a Espathra here. He goes for Substitute, perhaps predicting Will-O-Wisp or something else, but I go Volt Switch, and that critical hit did not matter. I took him out there, and also Tinglu has Whirlwind on this team, so regardless, I would have been fine. He does get a boost there. With speed, I don't really fear him at +0, even if he terrors, so I just get a Spike up here. He goes to Rotom Wash, and I'm okay with him going for Will-O-Wisp. I didn't think he was ever going to go for Hydro Pump with the Amoonguss in the background or Rotom W in the background. It felt pretty likely he was going to predict the switch and either Volt Switch out, which would have been awesome, or Will-O-Wisp, which I don't mind that too much in the Tinglu. Thankfully for that, I was able to get the Will-O-Wisp. I took it just fine. I Whirlwind him out, and fortunately for him, he does get the Flamigo in, which is pretty threatening to me, and only I can Ruination it. But when it comes to when it comes to prediction, I thankfully got it right here. He probably predicted me to go to my Mungus on the close combat. And I knew A, if this does 31, close combat only to 60, so I'd be fine getting, an attack off anyway. And B, if he locks in close combat, I can go Mungus and get something to sleep next time around. So it's kind of like a win some, lose some type of play. It wasn't really a big deal if you got it right, but if you got it wrong, like I got it right, then not only can I live another Brave Bird, I get a Ruination off, and I know what he's locked into. Fortunately, I do miss the Ruination here, but again, I now know he's locked into Brave Bird. He was faster than Dragapult, so had to be Scarf. From there, he goes for his Rotom Washes. I go Garganacl. Great play on his end there. I didn't quite want to go Rotom Wash. I wanted to keep it healthy because I knew it's likely going to be quicker than his slow Annihilate. He goes for Hydro Pump, though, predicting the Tinglu again. And Amoonguss comes in, takes that. It's a very offensive Hydro Pump, I might add. Anyway, I do finally get my chance to Spore, and I'm going to be able to Spore that Espathra there, putting it to sleep. Once it is asleep, I'm going to go to Scizor here. I don't want to play any games with it waking up and potentially getting a stored power sweep off. So my Scizor comes in here now. This turn, he goes Annihilate, interestingly enough. I'm not sure if he predicted U-turn, just wanted to boost Rage Fist, but Bullet Punch at 57. I didn't play any games there. And sure enough, here's going to be an interesting turn. So you see here, I do 57 with Bullet Punch on this turn. After leftovers, that leaves him at 31%. So half of 57 is 28, 29%, in that range. Moreover, if he is able to somehow resist this via terrestrializing into a water or a fire type, for example, then the Bullet Punch would not do enough to kill with the current roll. In honesty, I don't think there was any roll where it would have killed. I got a high damage roll on the initial Bullet Punch, actually. And if I didn't get that, I would have just switched out here, probably just to fodder off my Tinglu. Or maybe I would have went Tinglu and then double to Dragapult, which Will-O-Wisp, or even I just would have went Hard Rotom W because 100 base power Rage Fist plus 0 wouldn't do a ton. I definitely had my outs, but because of this, I actually knew that Scizor was going to be my win condition regardless. If you looked at it, Bullet Punch is awesome into Chien-Pao. It's awesome into the Flamigo, and Espathra that's asleep, where it's Quick Attack, which is the move I have, can do a kill Rotom Wash from here. So I knew Scizor was going to be important here. So I decided that given that I always kill with Terra Steel Bullet Punch if he becomes a water or a fire type, I went ahead and predicted him Terrestrialize, and I Terrestrialized on my own, and I got that kill. So he predicted me to just stay in and go for a Bullet Punch to kill it. And thankfully, it worked out for me. So I get a free kill there, and he wastes his Terrestrialization there. Awesome turn for me there. He goes to Rotom Wash on this turn, gets a Will-O-Wisp off into my Moongus, which is a great play on his end. Instead of Volt Switching, he goes for a middle ground into the Espathra, knowing I might go Tinglu. He just wants to reset the field so he can go to his Chien-Pao, which is really the strongest and most threatening Pokemon on his team. Thankfully, I am able to maneuver around it pretty well, as while I do lose the Amoonguss, that lets me go Rotom Wash freely, and if he didn't go for Ice Spinner into the Amoonguss, I would have gotten it to sleep. So, yeah, Volt Switch there is going to get a critical hit on the Chien-Pao, but it died to Hazards anyway, and also it died to U-Turn there regardless. U-Turn's going to take that out. I'm going to go ahead and get my Rotom Wash in. At this point, I'm in a 5-2 position. He goes Flamigo, which can potentially get a kill depending on what it locks into, and close combat is indeed the right one to lock into, but not only is that going to give him a defense drop, and while he's going to take out the Tinglu, which is not needed at this point anymore, it's going to leave him in range for a quick attack from Choice Banded Scizor. Him predicting Bullet Punch, understandably so. He is going to go to the Rotom Wash. However, quick attack is easily going to be able to take out that in 2 hits. The first one doing 35, leaving him at 19%, and the second one, of course, doing the remaining 19%. And from there, after the entry hazards of Stealth Rock, quick attack is always going to kill that Flamigo, especially with the Technician and the Choice Band boost, and Scizor is going to go ahead and clean up MudkipNerd, giving me a 1-0 lead in the series. Going on to Game 2, I elect to use a more balanced team. Again, I felt like the momentum was really great. I really loved Scizor and Dragapult as breakers against him. Something big that I wanted to use here was Unaware Skeldurge. I felt Skeldurge was really good into setup heavy teams, and he definitely did have an affinity for using setup sleepers, so I didn't really prepare for MudkipNerd. I definitely expected those, so I wanted to use a Haze Toxapex and an Unaware Skeldurge. I also was considering using things like Ditto and Abundance of Priority, which you can see I already have integrated in Scizor, but I was considering like Dragonite with Extreme Speed, King Gamble with Sucker Punch, which we'll be seeing in Game 3. Spoiler alert. But yeah, here I just wanted a different kind of way of being safe about it, basically. I didn't really prepare like teams specifically, MudkipNerd, I guess, but I just used teams that I felt were pretty safe into his tendency that I already had, I guess. So that was kind of the the logic behind if you want to back to behind the scenes perspective. But if you have any more questions on that, just ask them down below in the comment section. I'm happy to engage with you guys. And if you do want to see more, be sure to like, comment, let me know that, and subscribe to the channel. We're actually approaching 8,000, I believe, so it'd be awesome. Anyway, game 2, he brings a rain team. Right off the bat, I am noticing not only does he have no ghost resist, but he's have no electric resist. I have Specs Dragapult with Shadow Ball and Thunder, and he's got rain, so that kind of feels foolproof. But if you also couple that with the fact that Rotom Wash's Volt Switch was pretty free, I feel like I've got a really good matchup. I think his team, I think fitting both Barraskewda and Floatzel is kind of a beginner's trap. I think he tried to go too all in on the rain. I also think that Kilowattrel is more of a mediocre option on rain, more of an inconsistent option. I feel like, you hit a grass type or a ground type on this team, or maybe even a dragon type on this team for electric types, you already shore up some things. But thankfully, I ran into the right match at the right time, I felt. So I was really confident, really confident going into this team preview. And let's go ahead and get into the game. So here we're going to have him leading Pelipper. I'm going to Dragapult. I got the Specs Thunder. He's got no electric resist, so I'm going to go ahead and get that Thunder off into the Scizor here, 57%. He does really leftovers. If he's got special defense investment, there's a chance I get absolute max and he could live. And I don't want to risk anything. But also B, Bullet Punch damage would leave me in range for something like a Quaquaval or a Barraskewda potentially, or even Hurricane from Pelipper, and I don't want to risk that. So what I did here was I went Scizor knowing that without Roost this generation, and with him being at least max HP with leftovers, he's probably not going to be like Swords Dance Terra Electric, and he's probably not going to want to burn his Terra this early in the game. Regardless, that I can go Toxapex here on a likely Bullet Punch, which is just going to be negated by leftovers, and then I know he's likely to switch out or click turn out, so I go for Toxic knowing it hits all 5 other Pokemon on his team. Sure enough, not only do I get that right, but I get what might be the most threatening Pokemon to my bulky water types of Rotom Wash and Toxapex in his Kilowattrel. Thankfully, with that being poisoned, I'm now able to kind of put it on a timer. Now, at this point, I don't want to go Ting-Lu and risk a Hurricane or a Weather Ball quite yet. And Skeldurge against a team with 4 water types, and with the Scizor, the only Pokemon it does well against being weakened, feels pretty useless. So even if it dies in one hit, which you'd need a critical hit for at least, then I'm just gonna pivot accordingly. For example, if I see Specs damage, then I'll know it's locked into something, and if I don't see Specs damage, then I could try and at least go Ting-Lu and then stall more Toxic turns, and then from there Ting-Lu isn't really useful for anything else anyway. He goes for Thunder here. It does reveal Specs or modest Magnet based off that damage. I actually think he predicts me to go Ting-Lu, and at this point I'm gonna go back. He predicts me to go Ting-Lu on this turn because he's locked in the Thunder. He is indeed Specs, I find out, which is a good play on his part, except for the fact that I kind of react to that saying I don't need Skeldurge at all in this game. Scizor is already weakened. It dies to another Kilowattrel as we see, dies to Pelipper, dies to Barraskewda, dies to Quaquaval, dies to Floatzel. I don't need it. And if he stays in and kills me, then not only do I get Rocks, which chips the Kilowattrel, but also he takes another turn of Poison. So that means that this is much weaker. Pelipper takes Rocks, and this takes Rocks. And once this Kilowattrel dies, suddenly Rotom Wash and Toxapex, coupled with even Quick Attack from Scizor with the Rocks up, can really win later on in the game. That would put me in an awesome position. So I'm like, okay, if he stays in, I die. If he switches here, it's going to be the one of the water types. He's got 4 water types. He's not going to switch in Scizor here, especially when it doesn't get recovery. So I go for Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp and the Scizor would have been fine too. Predicting the switch, knowing that if he stays in, then it's not a bad position. And sure enough, he brings in Quaquaval, and that is basically a kill. A burnt Quaquaval is a useless Quaquaval. So I'm now in an awesome position. Knowing that I've got the Skeldurge in the back as fodder, I'm going to go ahead and just save it as is now. And here I bring in my Big Stall the Toxapex. And Big Stall the Toxapex is actually a misnomer, as I go ahead and fire off a stab boosted, rain boosted liquidation, clean 54% to that Kilowattrel, which really speeds up the process behind it. At this point, I feel like he's really trying to go to get for the Toxapex. He thundered last time. And if he locks in a Weather Ball, there's only one more turn of rain. So Ting-Lu could live 2, and Hurricane bounces off it anyway. So I go Ting-Lu here. He goes Thunder. That's awesome because now I can go ahead and get Rocks up. And unless he's default Scizor, then Rocks are going to kill that Kilowattrel. It's not going to enter anymore, thus opening up the game with my 2 big water types. He gets a U-turn off here. He goes Barraskewda. I'm just going to go ahead and Whirlwind him knowing he can't do much to me. Sure enough, the Quaquaval comes in here. I just fire off an Earthquake. I don't really need Ting-Lu much at this point. And also, I don't want him, trying to double something in, like say a really nothing threatens Tax at this point, but double in something like a Psychic Fangs Barraskewda, I suppose. Yeah, sure, why not? So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this trade with Tinglu here. Now he goes Floatzel. At this point, I go Toxic just to make sure he's banded. And Wave Crash does only 42 to me, so I know for a fact that he is gonna Tower Water to try and get this kill. He showed before that he was trying to Thunder into me. He's really wanted to kill the Toxapex. He felt pressured by it, so I kind of baited the Terra here. And at this point, I'm going to fodder off the Tinglu because it was my weakest Pokemon, and it's slower than everything, it dies to everything. He goes for his Terra there. Not only do I burn a Rain turn and get some recoil, but now he can't use that at any later point. So I go Rotom Wash here, and he reacts accordingly, knowing he can't kill me, and fires off to kill a Wattrel. I just click Protect anyway to stall a turn of Rain. He goes Barraskewda here, no problem for me. I just click Protect once more, and he goes for a Waterfall as Rain expires. That's going to go ahead and lead to him going Scizor here. On the Scizor, I Volt Switch. It does 28, so I see he's got physical defense, not special defense with that HP investment. I Dragapult. Again, I bait the Bullet Punch and I switch out. I go Rotom Wash. Crit means nothing. I'm back at full anyway, except 4 times resist. And in line with the roll I got before, I'm able to take the Scizor out with Volt Switch, bringing the Dragapult. And Dragapult essentially forces a kill and Rain to expire like in the long term, because I can Thunder, kill everything, so he's got to go Pelipper, and then to his Swift Swim. From there, his Swift Swim, Choice Band, Stab, Terastallization, Wave Crash kills my Dragapult through the resist, which is funny. And like Game 1, I can go ahead and clean up with Quick Attack Scizor, taking out the 19% Floatzel, and the 64% Fragile as can be Barraskewda, giving me a nice clean 4-0 victory for the second game in a row. Yeah, no Choice Band, Quick Attack Scizor cleans 2 games in a row in a 4-0 fashion. That's a little funny symmetry there. I suppose I didn't even notice this during the set. However, just to make it even more fun, I told him when he requested it that I would do a best of 5 against him. I guess my guy wanted to save some face. My guy thought he could come back, and I respect the fighting spirit. I really do. But I was like, okay, good game 2. Let's do best of 5. And lo and behold, in game 5, I decided I was going to bring a hyper offensive team. I brought those last week when we played, and I was feeling more offensive in general. Truth be told, the game 2 team that I used, while it was balanced, it wasn't like stall or semi-stall. It felt a little bulkier than I liked. I definitely like more offensive teams in this beta game. At least in game 1, I had a lot of tools, whereas in game 2, I felt like it was more reactionary to his Rain especially. And while the game turned out very well, I think he beat himself more than I beat him. Not to be rude to Mudkip, of course. It was just a really hard matchup. I feel like his team composition, it was really weak to Dragapult. It was really weak to Rotom Wash and Toxapex, so it was very hard for him, and he tried to climb uphill and just couldn't quite scale it, basically. This game, I wanted to be the aggressor. I wanted to take initiative, and right off the bat, we see 2 really aggressive, kind of manly teams, if you will. I've got the Lamora team with the Goldango, which basically means you set up the rocks, or maybe even spikes with it. Yes, it could be rocks on the Kingambit potentially and just spikes on it, but also with Toxic Debris, you set up toxic spikes, and you get kind of all your hazards up with the Glamora, whereas the Goldango can block defog from there, putting you in a really interesting spot because hazards are kind of forced up, if you will. Personally, I really enjoy this dynamic of the metagame. I think it's really great, especially if you're not facing something like bulky Great Tusk. Also, there are, of course, ways around that with things like Air Balloon Goldango, although it does risk knockoff. I just find it to be a very fun aspect of our metagame. Against someone like MudkipNerd, who, again, I view as me being more of an offensive kind of setups for me player, I knew that something like Toxic Spikes could limit the longevity of his teams, and also having priority on board, which I do in terms of Sucker Punch and Gambit, Extreme Speed Dragonite, and Aqua Jet on Azumarill, would really put me in a good position to kind of either limit or kind of put on a timer all of his win conditions. And sure enough, this game he brought the hyper offense here. He's got Nespathra, Corviknight, Cyclizar, Chi-Yu, Dragonite, and the Iron Valiant. Right off the bat, Iron Valiant, Chi-Yu, Dragonite, and Espathra do commonly use setup moves. I suppose it could be kind of a bulk up Corviknight too, just based on the setup of the team. It wouldn't make sense. It could also be like some sort of a eject button pivot with defog for hazards. We'll have to wait and see. And Cyclizar to set Shed Tail. Interesting he didn't opt to use a Grimmsnarl. Normally we see something like that in the Iron Valiant spot, but maybe he's got some method to his madness. We'll have to wait and see. Right off the bat here, I figured like he was going to lead with a taunt variant of the Cyclizar. And if he taunts turn 1, then I don't even have Sludge Bomb on this set. I was actually Spike, Stealth Rock, Earth Power, Mortal Spin, while poisoning the Sickle would be great. He could then kind of Shed Tail out into Corviknight or into Dragonite, and I didn't want to give him that momentum if it was a setup variant of Corviknight, because getting that behind a sub, my main way of beating it would have been like Trick with Goldango, so I didn't want to risk anything of that nature. I decided I was going to actually lead with my Dragapult, predicting him to lead with that Cyclizar and go for the taunt, knowing I could threaten it out. He goes ahead and leads with that Cyclizar. And here, I'm expecting him to kind of play him defensive and predict a dragon type attack. He does that, but I wanted to stay safe because I didn't want Cyclizar doing any nonsense. Also, if he went to Corviknight or he went to Chi-Yu, could have, gotten some chip off, could have seen what Corviknight said it was, didn't take leftovers, for example, or if it was specially defensive or offensively invested, but he went Valiant, and he reveals Booster Energy right off the bat. That's fine. Normally, Valiant on Hyper Offense is kind of hard to say set-wise. I'd say normally we run like Moonblast, Close Combat, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball with like Terra Ghost on a general balance of both the offensive team, but it could be like Swords Dance on this team. I was going to say, if it's not Booster Energy, it could be Scarf or Specs as well, but when he shows Booster Energy, I'm like, okay, so maybe it's a Swords Dance set. I kind of was hoping that he would be fearful of me going for like a Phantom Force, or maybe fearful of some sort of status move like Will-O-Wisp, which I ran in game 1. So I was thinking, okay, first off, he could potentially double back to Chi-Yu. Second off, he could potentially go for a Fairy type. So knowing all of this, I have a Scarf Focus Blast Goldango. So I just go to that knowing that worst case scenario, I come in on the Fire type attack and take some chip. Best case, I can kind of bait the Chi-Yu into respecting the Focus Blast and probably going for an attack or switching out, and I could double to my Azumarill and kind of flip this bad position into a good one. So I go to Goldango, but he clicks Swords Dance. And not only does he got Swords Dance up, but my man has Speed Boost. However, turns out he does not have any attacks to hit me. Apparently, he was planning to use a Fling Iron Ball set. I don't know if that's true. If anyone was prepping with him, let me know down below in the comments. Because that would have killed my Goldango and been sick. But unfortunately, my guy did not have it, so we scared him out there. We just went for make it rain just to make sure, because we had to keep him honest. I didn't want to switch out and lose something else as well. I did have enough prior to take it out, but thankfully I didn't even incur any kills. Now he goes Flame Charge. And at this point, if he goes Flame Charge, I'm fairly certain if he's gonna Flame Charge when I've got a full health Azumarill in the back, that he's gonna be Terra Grass. But if he uses his Terra Grass here and takes out my Azumarill, that's very okay with me, because I still have a full health Lamora and Dragonite to check this. Also, it suddenly loses its weakness to its resistance to Sucker Punch. And B, that means that he can't Terastallize with Spathra later. He can't Terastallize with potentially set up Corviknight or Dragonite either. I feel like that would have been a fine trade. I would have been okay trading my Azumarill life for him using his Terra prematurely pretty much, which I think speaks volumes to how strong Terastallization is in the metagame, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just say, yeah, sure, do it if you want. I guess he's not Terra Grass, or maybe he was, but he didn't want to use it. And I was like, well, if he's not Terra Grass, then he's got to switch because he can't kill me. I don't think he's going to be Flame Charge plus Will-O-Wisp. That combination didn't really make much sense. So I was like, switch-wise, probably predicting a water move. So I was like, maybe he goes to one of the dragon types like Dragonite or Cyclizar. So I could click Play Rough into them, but also I was Belly Drum, so I didn't even have Liquidation or Waterfall or whatever like that. My strongest water move and only water move is Aqua Jet, so I just clicked Play Rough, knowing fully well that even if it just bounced off the Corviknight switch, which I felt was most likely, then I would know its spread. I'd know if it's physically defensive, special defensive, offensive, setup, whatever, and then I could form my game plan around that. Information is king, But he goes as Bathra and he dodges it, so kind of a moot point. Thankfully, I can get a Play Rough off here. It does 52. I'm shocked he could do so little. I guess it's like a max defense variant. And then anyway, at +1, he goes for Lumina Crash, which actually is like a psychic stab move that drops the special defense, which is cool, but I'm able to bring it down to 10% after the second Play Rough and leftovers, and then Aqua Jet, of course, can take it out from there. So a Spathra goes down, and I'm in a pretty good spot here. He goes Shed Tail here. I just click Ice Spinner, knowing that maybe he's trying to slip the Dragonite. kind of hits with it, can't miss basically. He goes Corviknight right off the bat. I know that he's not physically defensive because that broke us up. That's fine with me. I go Goldenga thinking it might be a agility set or a bulk up set with Power Trip. He goes bulk up first, predicting me to maybe Belly Drum. Doesn't want to like take too much damage, which is fine. I go for Trick, hoping that he stays in here, not wanting to risk anything. And thankfully, he locks himself into agility. And at that point, it's mostly game. I bring Glamora in just as a safe haven. He goes ahead and goes to Cyclizar. Since I don't know Sludge Bomb, I don't want to risk anything. So he gets the Shed Tail off because I couldn't break the sub, and he turned almost behind the sub. I got my Infiltrator Dragapult. I can Dragon Darts once, and then since I see the bulk on him given the Dragon Darts damage, I'm actually going to Dragon Dance here, knowing that +1 can kill him, but +0, as we saw at the 23 in the second hit after Multiscale is broken in the first, can't. +1 has a very strong chance to kill him, and even always does unless he's got like defense investment, I believe, because I'm adamant. So, given that, I'm going to go ahead here, get that Dragon Dance up, knowing that unless he's Ice Spinner, he can't kill me. And Ice Spinner variants of Dragonite tend to run closer to max speed, so they can outrun other Dragonite and slow Garchomp. And at +1, they could outrun Dragon types like Cyclizar, for example. So because of that, I'm fairly confident that he's not Ice Spinner. And if he is Ice Spinner, then that means he's Ice Spinner, Extreme Speed, Earthquake, and that's fine with me because then what I'll do is since I have whatchamacallit, I have Terra Flying King Gambit. What I can do is I can actually live Earthquake. He's gonna basically predict me to be not Terra Flying and Earthquake the first turn. I'll break the sub, and then from there, since he doesn't actually sub on Dragonite, he doesn't do any damage. I live a +1 Ice Spinner, and I can go ahead and go for another attack and bring him down. And from there, my own Dragonite's Extreme Speed should kill him. So I basically have to trade 2 for 1, which wouldn't have been good, but it would have been feasible. I would have been able to maneuver around it basically. It would have put me in the backseat a little bit. But I knew that wasn't likely given his EV spread. So I went for Dragon Dance here because I knew that I wanted to win 1v1. And if I didn't, he's behind the sub regardless, so it's going to take 2 Pokemon. So I just went ahead, since I'm Infiltrator, it kind of worked this way. He Earthquakes, and thankfully doesn't crit. He reveals his max HP, max attack with everything he took, and Dragon Darts, as I alluded to, takes him out easily, not even a roll, 37 into 28 to take it out. He goes to his Corviknight, but it's Choice Scarf locked, so he can only just click Power Trip, which is the set, and a weakened Power Trip without any boost doesn't do much damage. I'm going to go ahead and Phantom Force, and I Terra Ghost here. That way I'm going to stall leftover turn so I can get another sub up after I damage it potentially. And he isn't able to break the sub with 2 Power Trips because it's so weak again. Then I can just go for another Dragon Dance here. And from there, it is pretty much an easy win. I'm going to walk on to my third straight victory and win the one-time best of 3, turned into best of 5, 3-0 against MudkipNerd, keeping my spot on the Scarlet and Violet Overuse Council. It was a lot of fun playing MudkipNerd and interacting with all these people from different walks of the game. It's really been awesome being kind of an ambassador of competitive Pokemon. He could have also switched and stalled out IPP and Phantom Force because I only had Dragon Darts and Phantom Force. So only way to hit Valiant is Phantom Force. He's got a normal type. Then that baits Dragon Darts because I can only hit with Dragon Darts. He could go back to Valiant. He kind of PP stalled me basically. I don't know why he didn't do that. And honestly, if he was smart about it, he could have PP stalled me to the point where he maybe got a free Swords Dance. But given that I still had Aqua Jet and Extreme Speed and Goldengo at full with Red Card to force a switch and King Gambit and a Sashed Glamora in the back, there's no way I could have lost this game, but he could have gotten a kill, basically, or maybe even 2. But thankfully he just stays in, saves his time, and then he's like, "Oh wait, let me get a kill." So I'm like, "Okay, fine, you can have the Dragapult. I'm not trying to 6, I'm not trying to gloat or anything, and he can knock me off, and I'll Dragon Dance again, and he'll knock me off once more, and from there." Because I found it funny that last time he won game 2 with a Dragonite. I was like, okay, let me finish with my own Dragonite, and he taunted me in a Dragonite. I was like, okay, fine. And I proceeded to do the honors myself. I Earthquake there, and then I took him out with an Ice Spinner to finish it off because my own Dragonite did have that, and that'll put me in a 3-0 spot. And I won the series against MudkipNerd. Thanks to him for being a good sport and Again, everyone from Reddit, Smogon, Pokemon Showdown, Twitter, we're coming around watching this series. We had over 600 people watch this, over 1,300 people watched the last one, and that's all awesome. On the 1st of January, 2 p.m., I'm actually going to be playing Freeze Eye in a fun-ish kind of OU Spotlight Best of 3. Freeze Eye, for those who don't know, big content creator and over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so be sure to check that out. And in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy these kind of like high-stakes beef matches. Kind of something I really like bringing to the channel. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. All right. Bye, everyone. Peace.